Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Black and Blurred.
Hi.
Welcome back, guys. That was Darren. This is Brandon. It's another episode of Black and Blurred, and we are talking about some juicy stuff today. I guess, I don't know, is juicy the word?
No, I mean...
When do people use juicy? They use juicy for, like, gossip and stuff, right?
This is gossipy?
I mean, it's not gossip, but I'm saying it just, like, it's in that realm.
Let's go with juicy.
What's yours? Come up with one. 3, 2, 1.
Saucy.
It's not good enough. We want to dive into... Let's get right to it. We want to dive into this big music video made by, or cinematic music video, I guess, I don't know, made by Beyonce and cast.
Trendy. No, that's not good.
No. Trendy. No.
All right. Juicy it is.
All right. Juicy. So, yes, Beyonce came out with a cinematic music video called Black is King. Maybe you've heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, you're not cool. No. Maybe, but still. And we want to talk about it because it's popular, but there are some interesting talking points.
Yes, my goodness.
It could be talk points.
Sure. Let's go with talk points.
All right.
Hey, guys, today he's always right.
Look. It's 2-0. That's all. As far as I'm concerned, it's 2-0.
There are some interesting talk points.
Talking points.
Let's go with that.
Well, that's the thing. Whatever. It can be, that's an adjective. It can still be talk. We're not. I'm not doing this. Are you kidding me? I'm not doing this.
You're arguing with yourself.
So, guys, there are some talking points. I yield. I think that's necessary talking points also. But you know what though? When this stuff happens, and I'm not talking about Beyonce. That's touchy in and of itself. What was that face?
It tastes like a Rocky Patel, man.
Why'd you get it?
Because, man, when you go to Davidoff, they recommend stuff, and this was actually affordable.
Oh well, sorry to hear that.
Almonds or something.
But on a serious note, we are living in a day today where the Christian dare not speak out about things in the world that other Christians happen to love.
Yeah.
Because don't come at my idols.
Right.
essentially. And this is not something we're saying we are separate from. This is a temptation that we would struggle with as well. And I was reminded of when I watched Black is King. And Jay-Z is on there, Beyonce's husband, Sean Corey Carter. I was a diehard Jay-Z fan. But that's saying it lightly. When I was in high school and in middle school, I idolized Jay-Z.
I used to try to steal his Rockaware clothes. He used to be hot.
Yeah. I worked hard for that.
Goodness gracious.
I worked.
Man.
I had my own job so I could buy my own clothes. And majority of it was Rockaware. And I seriously idolized him. I wish that somebody could have taken me at that point and been like, hey, he could do and say things and get you to go along with it at this point. Because he's an idol of yours.
Yep.
He's an idol of yours. And it's not that if he did or said something that was heinous or truly evil, that I would change my mind and be like, you know what, I'm all for evil now because I'm a Jay-Z fan. Yeah. That's not the way it works. But the way it works is I would try to find every aspect of good in the evil he does.
Mm-hmm. And try to justify your idol. Yeah. Idolization.
Yeah.
Idolatry. I don't know.
Talk points. So I think, so this is something I came up with as we were preparing for this episode. It's important for us to address the fact that the times that we're in, you hear a lot of Christians talk about the times we're in. Obviously, yes, that there are specific pieces of evidence that display the closeness of Jesus coming back. However, the things and the disposition of humanity towards God isn't new. It's not new. It's happened since the beginning. And we want to dedicate this episode to brothers and sisters in Christ, although we're hoping that even those who are not Christians would listen to it. But as we start, I want to remind our brothers and sisters of some things that are important, because Christianity is just another one of the lineup of belief systems today.
Right.
Even for Christians, it's about tradition. It's about experience and feelings, rhythms and patterns. Go to church on Sunday. Go to Bible study. If you're Pentecostal, go to church every day. Shout out to Melvin, who grew up, who was on our episode with a friend of ours. He talked about being in church every day, all day. But yeah, and that's all it is. And then if there's anything else to talk about Christianity, it's probably in a comedic tone.
Yeah.
And jokes.
We mentioned that a couple weeks ago. Or was it last week? I can't remember.
About what?
About how there's so many like Christian comedians, and all that means is that they don't cuss, or they're not sharing the gospel. Yeah. It's not like at the end they go, all right, guys, this is fun, I appreciate it, but
there's people out here dying and they need truth.
Right.
Shout out to a Baltimore musician named Razel. I'm going to forever hold that song that she wrote on the spot in my heart at a time of worship at
Word of God
Church in Baltimore. And she just on the spot in a prayerful way played this song that said, "When he cracks the sky, nothing's going to matter. So stand with me now and help me fight this battle, because people are out here dying every day and they're not saved." And that should be a very sobering thought as we, continue to plan our lives and we continue to seek out all things that we enjoy. Look, don't think that in this episode that we're talking about enjoying life is a bad thing. Enjoying life leads to worship, true.
Right.
Seriously. We've been given things on this earth to truly enjoy, but we've begun thinking that that's the point.
Yeah.
Of life, self-indulgence and pleasure, and even those who profess to be Christians would believe the same things. So don't attack my entertainment. Don't attack the things that I love. And the fact that it would be seen as an attack means that you have the wrong view.
Yeah.
The fact that it seems like an attack, if I'm out in a strip club somewhere and Darren says, "Yo, what are you doing? Your pregnant wife is at home," and I view that as an attack, it means that I'm lost. I'm lost. So I want to lay some groundwork for our brothers and sisters in the faith, because we're going to talk about things, and you're probably asking questions like, why y'all got to talk about this, or what's the point in talking about this? What good does it do? Or there are people who would disagree, or you making me mad, or you make these people mad, or this isn't loving, or this whatever. All of these things. And let me just lay some groundwork. Starting in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul says,
"Yeah, I was looking up something in Corinthians
just now,
based on what you just said." Yeah.
Oh, and Paul says, "If I have prophetic powers, and I understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I'm nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but I have not love, I gain nothing." You can do a bunch of things. We can be doing this podcast. We can hit you with facts. We can dissect every video, every movie, whatever, and point out flaws in it. But if it's not out of love, it's worth nothing. Now, here's the next important part, because I think a necessary question that follows up is, what's love? And how do we know it's loving? I'm so glad you asked. Love is patient, Paul goes on to say. Love is kind. Love does not envy, a popular thing today. It doesn't boast. Love isn't arrogant. Love isn't rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing. But love rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things. Love believes all things. Love hopes all things. It endures all things. Love never ends. You know, Tula was telling me that she was just trying to look up some Christian perspectives on Black is King.
Okay.
She was just looking up articles. And she typed it in, whatever it is, Black is King, Christian articles or whatever. And she couldn't find one. But it returned Jesus as King. But here's the thing. They were Christian critiques.
Yeah, of course.
They were Christian critiques on Jesus as King. We have Kanye West, who comes out and professes Jesus to be King in the Christian church. His first response is to doubt. Now, I think testing is good.
Yeah. Right.
Testing is good. Mm-hmm. But love hopes all things, is what it says. Just as if we, when we talk about this, like the center of this is not Beyonce. No. Like, we're not about to be on this episode like, hey guys, Beyonce is actually a demonic snake goddess for the Illuminati. Right. We're not interested. I'm not interested.
Right.
And I also don't have any evidence to show you that. So that's not what we're doing here. But I hope that she would come to know Christ. I would be overjoyed if she came out with a profession of Jesus being King.
Right.
We know that she professes to be a Christian. Yeah. But what good is that?
So I found what I was looking for. It's in 2 Corinthians. Mm-hmm. When you were talking about Christians who are bothered by the critique of, or I guess, it bothers them to hear the truth about their faith in a sense that it kind of dethrones what they behold in that moment.
Yeah.
And this might, let me know if this is a stretch, but in 2 Corinthians, in the CSB version, I like this. I like two different versions or translations of this, but 2 Corinthians 3 verse 18, Paul is saying that we all with unveiled faces are looking as in a mirror at the glory of the Lord and are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory. This is from the Lord who is the Spirit. But in the King James Version, it says, but we all with open face, beholding as in the glass in the glory of the Lord, we are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the will of the Lord. And what I think of is when Paul uses the imagery of a mirror, and being transformed into what we behold. If we are believers and we behold the Lord, mm-hmm. we're transformed into his image. Mm-hmm. But if we're not beholding the Lord, we're transformed into what we are beholding. Mm-hmm. And those things aren't like Christ.
Yeah.
If it's not Christ, then it's not like him.
That is correct, sir.
And also, I guess you can, what I just was revealed in my brain just now is that there's no way that you could be in the presence of God and not see yourself.
Say again.
Like, there's no way you can be in the presence of God and not see yourself.
Because we are
image bearers, and because of our imperfection, his glory shines light on our imperfection. Yeah. That's what we see. That's what draws us to worship.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see him, we see us go, ew.
Yeah. But then that's paired with also his love for us.
Right. And that's why we worship.
What draws you to worship.
Right. Absolutely.
Because otherwise there's fear. Right. And there's a desire to run.
Right.
But man, that's but I wanna move through this. So to the ones who asked the question, like, why do y'all even have to deal with this? This is not that big a deal. Ouch. One, and I want to touch on this. Like, I want to touch on just the surface level of it. Mm-hmm. As lovers of music, as lovers of video and stuff like that, we can talk about that and talk about our thoughts about it. And then, but the reason we're talking about it is because it's not just music and video.
Right.
There are statements being made There are claims to truth being made in this big documentary, or cinematic music video. There are claims to truth. One is the title. It may not be an objective claim. It may just be artistic or whatever, but people can be affected by it. And so as a pastor, I've been charged to care for people in that. So, but yeah, so Paul says in 1 Thessalonians, do not quench the spirit. Don't despise prophecies. You know, if people are given prophecies, don't be a cynic and be like, oh boy, nah, that ain't it. It says don't just despise them, but test it.
Yeah.
Test everything, actually. Hold fast to what is good. Abstain from every form of evil. 1 John echoes that sentiment by saying, beloved, don't believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world, but by this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. And every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming and is now in the world already. As far as my charge, and as far as my unwillingness to back down on talking about things like this, as far as my unwillingness to preach the true gospel, to preach the scriptures, no matter how people respond to me, no matter what happens to me. 2 Timothy, as Paul tells a young pastor, he says, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with complete patience and teaching. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching. But having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. As for you, always be sober-minded, endure suffering, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry.
All right.
And that's what we have. We have, even within the church, we have people who have their favorite teachers. And it says, I like you because you do for my ears what I need. You say the things I need to hear. And unfortunately, the things that they think they need to hear are actually things they want to hear. And so as a result, we end up turning away from the things that we actually need to hear. You know, we turn away from the things that we actually end up needing to hear. Continuing on in Galatians, Paul says to the church in Galatia, but even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed. As we've said before, now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one received, let him be accursed. For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God?
Right.
Am I trying to please man? If I was still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. So if you have questions, if this episode makes you want to ask questions and engage in dialogue, because there are some things that we say, but you want to flesh that out a bit to seek out its validity. Look, and even if that makes you upset a little bit, but you want to deal with that and wrestle with that, I love that. Let's engage it. Let's engage that conversation. However, if the only basis of you wanting to have a conversation is because we made you mad and there's nothing else you want to discuss, I really don't. I don't have anything to say about that. Because
got to wrestle with the scriptures.
I guarantee you, we do not start up this podcast and think, who can we make happy as far as humans are concerned. So that's just, I just want to be honest with you in that. However, if that's the case, and you get to a point where you want to talk about that reality, that this just makes you mad, then let's talk about it. I would love to talk about it. We do not seek to please man. We seek to please our Father, because ultimately that's who's in control. Right. James 4 echoes that sentiment. Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity or separation or hatred or hostility with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Yeah. You know, we can read through the Old Testament. Sheesh. We read through the Old Testament, and you can kind of see the progression of Israel in this very close relationship with God. I mean, he's parting seas, you know, he's making food come from the heavens and stuff like that. And then they just kind of drift away.
Yeah.
And the question always remains, how does that happen? because the way that we read the scriptures is a historical document, but we're reading it now, got very far displaced, a few millennia displaced from the actual events, and you always just see it as, yeah, Israel changed their mind. Mm-hmm. All right, Yahweh, we done with you. Look, Baal, what you got for me, baby? Yeah. Look, give me that gold calf. But the reality of it, and so I think the problem with seeing it that way is because then we today feel displaced from Israel. We can look at Israel and be like, man, what's wrong with y'all?
Yeah, dummies.
Hey, what's wrong with y'all? Why y'all can't get it right?
Right.
Meanwhile, every single day we make decisions that can compromise the allegiance we have to God. And that one compromise leads to another compromise. And then that one compromise leads to another compromise. And if we aren't vigilant with eyes open, that we would know the will of God, do not be conformed to the world, but by the renewing of your mind be transformed, that you would know the will of God, is what Paul says in Romans 12. We know these scriptures, the Christians do. Well, they know these scriptures, but practically it can actually make us mad because it turns out that we may have a little bit more love for the world than we realized. I think it's important to wrestle with those things. So, with that groundwork laying, let's dive in. Let's just talk about it first as in artwork, an art piece.
An art, yeah.
What'd you think?
Great beaches. You know what I mean? Like, one of my first thoughts was like, man, what beach is that?
I know, crystal blue.
Yeah.
It's visually stimulating.
Yeah. It reminded me of, which it's obviously linked heavily to, Lion King. Remember that scene in the Lion King, the remake?
The
remake that they kept quoting in the thing.
Oh yeah, I guess they were doing narration through the movie.
Yeah, and they were taking like clips of I'm like, how is this on Disney Plus? And that's maybe how.
I couldn't follow the Lion King thing though.
No. It wasn't really.
I couldn't follow that.
Really matching it up, but I remember the scene in the Lion King that captured me, and that was the scene when Rafiki showed up and Simba was walking through the forest, and it's just this, just these tall trees, and you see the stars through the trees, and it's like just mist. And Rafiki's just kind of looking at Simba as he kind of walks through, like that kind of awe as far as cinematography. Mm-hmm. Like it just looks appealing.
Yeah, I mean, and there are things you can say about Disney movies too and what they teach.
Yeah. Well.
Seriously. But yeah. I think that was the only. What?
No. What you about to say?
No. I wasn't about to touch on the Black is King thing first. I was gonna say. The remake of the Lion King. I didn't get much out of that.
What they did was remake an animated movie.
Yeah, through animation.
It's just advanced.
It wasn't
animation.
Live action. Yeah, that's just weird.
But that was a real lion talking.
Yeah,
like what are we doing?
Yeah, dog. But I digress. Yeah, I mean, for me, I genuinely didn't have any interest in watching it. It's not like I heard that it was coming out, and
you're talking about Black is King now.
Yeah, I'm out on Black is King. I heard that it was coming out, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm not watching that. I didn't make a decision. I just don't, it
I didn't know it came
out. It went past. They said that Beyonce was coming out with a thing, but then when I heard the title, even I texted in our group chat with our family, and I was like, all right, time to put the magnifying glass on. Yeah. Because with a title like that, in times like today,
right,
there's gonna be some statements made.
Yeah, it was intentional.
Yeah,
obviously,
and we're gonna need to speak against that. And even with me watching through a pastoral lens, meaning I'm literally watching it so that I can love people well. Even with that being my desire, I fell asleep.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest with you, it's long.
Yeah.
And there's just lulls, and it's sort of slow. And also, to be fair, I used to love Beyonce.
Right. And here's the thing, right? And I just find it weird that she started doing this later in her career. Like if she would have done this with I Am Sasha Fierce, with that music, you know what I mean? Like a cinematography film with that music.
Yeah, with that music. Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? With that live band.
Even
4 up until, 4 is the last one.
Yeah.
I would say. it would have captured me a lot more, but the music wasn't good.
I genuinely don't like it. There's that.
Even what was one before, Lemonade, the music wasn't good enough.
I didn't see Lemonade, so I don't really know what music she came out with that's on Lemonade.
That's the hot sauce in my bag stuff.
Oh. I mean, that joint can thump a little bit.
Yeah, but it's just...
Actually, my favorite part about that song is choreography. Well, the woman, I don't know her name, but the woman who choreographed that song, she has... that's just a gift.
Hot sauce in her bag.
Yeah, hot sauce in her joints running through her veins. It's a gift to be able to visualize a song through bodily movements. That's just pretty phenomenal. And so she captivates the essence of that song through that choreography. Man, she did it. She did it. Well done, ma'am.
Yeah, needless to say, that was non-existent in this new synth, and we likened it when we talked about it. We compared it to our favorite cinematography music video of all time. Yeah, a lot of people haven't seen The Moonwalker.
Oh,
Michael Jackson started all this.
Classic.
And The Moonwalker was captivating. I don't even know what it was about.
Captivating.
But Michael Jackson just had a captivating ethic.
Aura.
Yeah, it was just his, first of all, the music, there's hit after hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don't stop, leave me alone.
Yeah. And it was just hits all over. And so we look at this and we're like, man, you're supposed to be like the top female artist of today.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't enjoy it. And so it was kind of hard. It was a bummer to have to think about having to rewatch it and to do research to pull stuff because it was
mostly
long.
Because it's so long. Yeah, it's like an hour and 30
it's very
minutes.
long. It's very long. And this aspect is very subjective. There are people who genuinely enjoy the music she does now and all that type of stuff. And so, I mean, that's just a difference of opinion. I genuinely, once Beyonce just hit a shift and she stopped actually using her beautiful singing voice.
Yeah, yeah.
And, if you don't jump to put jeans on, you don't feel my pain. That type of thing.
Goodness gracious.
So so from a musical perspective, it's not my thing. It's not my jam.
No.
It's not my jam. However, there are two main things I think that we can touch on regarding this and the release of this. There's the social implications of this, and then there are the theological implications that we can touch on. But I do want to highlight some good things in this because there were some artists that obviously I didn't know them, but the fact that more people's faces were in this thing that I didn't know, I just assumed that she was putting people in the spotlight who don't have her spotlight. I mean, what an honor that is.
Right. Yeah.
I forget that guy's name. Ghanaian artist. But I think he's like big into like reggae and that type of stuff. I mean, that's incredible. to snap your fingers and then boom, you're in one of Beyonce's epic.
There is one song that I like though, where it reminds me of what you were saying. Like she just had a bunch of female artists and like vocal artists, actors, models. It's like Black Skin or Black. Oh man, I can't remember. I don't know what the title of the songs, but
is it toward the end?
It's like the middle end, but it's like Black Skin, and it's showing like a bunch of women. It's just all women, and they're showing different shades of their skin.
Oh yeah. I think I heard that on the radio. That's a song that's on the radio. Right?
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty.
I'm asking.
I don't know. I don't listen to the radio.
I maybe don't even know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. But it's called like it's like the hook is just like about black skin, beautiful black skin.
Oh, okay.
Darks. It had just a it had some like really really dark. Nikita Nyong'o was in there.
Oh yeah. Yes, I did see that.
Then he had all the way up to like black girls who.
That's a good. Yeah, I like that.
Albino. Like it was just a
I like that.
Yeah.
I think so. There are aspects about this. I don't know if, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it a movement. There are aspects about this movement that are set on reestablishing what's true about people. Mm-hmm. Because there are some things that are being said. I mean, this is not necessarily only happening in Black American community. Like you have modeling agencies using what they call plus size models.
Right.
Even that term still
just regular people.
Presupposes that a model is skinny. Right. It still presupposes it. But still, like you're kind of reshifting the way that we see human beings through these narratives, and I think that's incredible. Yeah. I think that's good. And unfortunately, that's what makes the other messaging dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you have these very good messages, you have these very good feeling messages, especially when you add visual stimulation to things. You can just go ahead and throw some things in that, whatever. So let's start with the social aspect. With a title like "Black is King," like what comes to mind when you hear that?
Well, in 2020, the first thing I thought was, oh man, this is this push for quote unquote equality, I think. You know what I mean? But it's not really.
Between Black American and white American?
Yeah.
The only two types of people?
Yeah. So there's like this equality that Black people are pushing for today. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of equality that they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it was visualized. And it's not like, so in a subtle way, it was kind of like a self-empowerment. Like a not really
self-esteem boost.
Self-esteem, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, this is how you should view yourself. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But in another way, it's like, this is a religious viewpoint.
There's some religious undertones.
Yeah.
Heavily.
There's a religious viewpoint that says...
Matter of fact, overtones.
Yeah. Which what Nick Cannon was talking about. Mm-hmm. That he got fired for.
Yeah.
And that was there.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. It's dangerous for everyone, but especially the Christian who...
sees the soul essence of their identity as their blackness.
Right.
As their blackness. I can actually American narrative where no. Your heritage is not that of a slave. Mm-hmm. It's that of a king and a queen. You know what I mean? You hear a lot of people say, "What up, king? What up, queen?" That type of thing. So yes, I get that.
Yeah.
But then it's one of those things. You ever been on a computer where you need to adjust something through like a slider, but it doesn't have good intervals,
right? Yeah,
and you either go too far,
right,
or you can't go. You can't do any intermediate sliding.
iPhones
and iPhones is trash. You heard it here, Black and Blurred. Y'all iPhones is some trash.
Brought to you by Android.
Yeah. And so what ends up, I think we see this phenomena happening with Black Lives Matter, where it starts off as a cry for equality and help. But now it seems like a strong arm.
Right.
And not only that, a strong arm even against Black people that doesn't agree with absolutely every single thing you say.
Yeah.
So, So I think that's where the conversation needs to happen, where we can accurately parse out these unwanted materials in this supposedly self-lifting thing,
right?
Because even if people don't want to agree, self-exaltation is poisonous.
Right.
It's poisonous. So and like coming off of where we are right now, we're not in a place where I don't think it's hard to grasp the concept that Black is king. Like, we're not in, Jim Crow. The South isn't antebellum South. Right. We're in a different time. So, you got shirts where, there was a shirt I saw. I thought it was pretty funny, actually. It was a shirt I saw. It was like slaves and civil rights fighters were my ancestors. I'm not them. You can catch these hands.
Oh man.
And I get. We're not condoning punching people in the face, guys.
Right.
In self-defense. But now, So the thing that I can draw from that is there is a genuine belief of inferiority.
Right.
Amongst people. Like it's hard even when watching different movies and stuff like that, and you see people taking advantage of a Black American's belief that they are inferior to their white American counterparts, and then seeing that being taken advantage of. Like, hey, what you say, boy?
Yeah.
Nothing, sir.
Right.
Clean my car. Okay, sir. And especially if your family is there, you know that any wrong statement can cost your family's life.
Right.
And so therefore you have to submit, which takes a humility that people could never possess today.
No.
There's some good to take from that. Not the circumstance, the humility.
Right.
Because that's putting others before yourself. You can't think that those people weren't angry.
Right.
And it's like, hey, dog, if you saw me one-on-one, I would fry you.
Yeah. And you get that Cuba Gooding Jr. in Boys in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood.
And when he get back to the house.
Yeah. You get it.
And he saw swinging in the room.
That's
what it
right.
is.
You know, unfortunately, when you made that statement, all I saw was the Wayans version.
Oh man, with all the kids.
Don't be a menace, dog. I'm so sorry. You were acting your heart out, Cuba. I'm so sorry. But yeah. So we're not in that time. And so as far as grasping the concept that, hey, I'm a king, it wouldn't be hard to grasp. But it if unchecked and unguided, could continue to fuel the negative aspects that we're witnessing take place today, where people are going around telling people to kneel.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
That's the equality I was talking about. That's the equality we fighting for?
Yeah. You know, because there's another parallel equality happening. Female equality, women equality. As men, as a man, I can admit that history is replete with incidents, well-known incidents, and then if there are well-known incidents, there are many not so well-known incidents of women being treated as objects. It still happens today, but there are aspects of it that are celebrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. However, if a woman comes to me and says, hey, you need to kneel, I'm not kneeling.
Right.
No, we can talk about this, but and I essentially want to talk about why you think me kneeling to you is fixing the fact that a man could use a woman as an object.
Right.
Because the fact of the matter is, if I am that type of man and you tell me to kneel, I could still overpower you. There are some men who can't overpower women. We get that. But generally speaking, and so that doesn't fix anything. All it does is breeds more division.
Right.
That's all it does. And that's what we see today. And so, so that type of thing, socially speaking, if unchecked, I think can come from such a title.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like, well, what is this about? What is this about? And it's not like the actual artwork explicitly suggests the opposite, where it's like, no, it's not like that. This is more self-empowerment type stuff. So it would need to be fleshed out. Like, it needs to be talked about. You know what I mean? And there are some people, I think, some people on board where it's like, yeah, no, black is king and white is servant.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. And look, we just disagree. But there are people who would never make that statement because they know how nasty it sounds, but they would rather continue to believe it. I think.
Yeah.
That's tough. So yeah, I think the social implications are clear. We are heavily involved in racial matters today, conversations surrounding race, and then also a flawed understanding of race at that.
Yeah.
This whole white-black thing is made up. But as far as, it's like metal and plastic. Like plastic, you can consider it fake, but it's still real in the fact that it's a reality.
Right.
We still use it, so we got to deal with it, And I think that's the same thing with race. You can't just get away from the conversation by saying it's made up and it's fake. It's a reality. We still got to deal with it, even if it's not organic or it's not something that's natural. So, but let's talk about this theological issue here. because there are some worldviews in this. What things did you pick up on in watching this?
Yeah, what I kind of brought up earlier. Was the one side of equality and the other side or the one side of like a self-esteem booster and the other side of a theological world claim that black people are king. You know, the belief that the origin of the world came through the black woman. I've seen like memes and posters that say, you know, God is black and she's a woman. You ever seen stuff like that?
I think so. Yeah.
And that's that. And that's a truth claim about reality.
Yeah.
And I see that littered, and I saw that littered all throughout this. I don't know what to call it, music video, movie. That as well as a lot of spiritual symbolism. Mm-hmm. Saw a few like. When I looked at it, I assumed they were witch doctors. The scene where the dude is in the car, there's like a little boy in the back seat, and there's like a guy with the thing on his head, and he's like twisting something in his hand. Just not, you know, the intentional symbolism of duality, which is like good and evil or night and day. All of these, they weren't just black terms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In fact, I don't think the average black person would even know what those things are.
Yeah. You know what I just remember? We jumped the gun a bit. We're not going to dwell here too long, but I want to talk about it. It's still the social aspect.
Okay.
But I guess it touches on a little bit more. It expands just from American society to human society. You know what's very popular amongst black Americans is like getting back to their African roots.
I remember, yeah.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Like, because I have an understanding of what I would mean if I said that statement, but I don't know what everybody else means when they say that, because if I go back maybe 6 generations, what is that? I can't do the math right now. Yeah. But I don't know if that ends up in Africa.
You can't know for sure. No.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know that. I don't know that. However, I think to be honest, as far as humans are concerned, if every human goes back deep enough, it's going to end up in Africa, I think, or close to there.
Right, and I think that's the point, right? The truth of that statement.
Yeah. So
because it's true, they now derive that Africa, where all people come from, is the true beginning of humanity. And we, because we are still black,
are king
because we come.
It's king.
King. Yeah, we come from that true beginning of humanity.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
So now here's the issue with that. People saying, I'm going to get back to my African roots, then actually make immediate changes. So therefore, this is the belief system I have. Like, well, how do you know that? How do you know that that's the connection? Also, what do you mean by African?
Right. Yeah.
You know, Africa's a big place.
Continent. Yeah.
Africa is seen as this like kind of small monolithic place.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I actually came across some responses by peoples from different African countries to the Black is King thing. King video, cinematic video.
Right, cinematic video.
I'll read one comment, and then I'll also share some comments from a conversation I had from an African-born woman. So this is public knowledge. It's on a YouTube video, and her name is Joy Chepkemboy. And she says, what people don't understand is that Africans are tired of binary representation. We are either a dystopia with poor dying people or a utopia waking up singing traditional songs in traditional clothing and gold, both of which are used when trying to push narratives that serve the purpose of the conveyor. The fact that everyone thinks of Africa as just a whole, and the moment I mention I'm from Kenya, someone will tell me how she visited Sudan or South Africa, because of course we are all from the same place.
Yeah.
No one looks at Africa as a collection of numerous countries with diverse people who at the end of the day are people. We eat, we drink, we party, we do everything that everyone else does. And God forbid we speak up when we are misrepresented. We are gaslit and told to appreciate what we get. And so this was context. This was in response to another African, a person from an African country saying the same type of thing. And someone said, Beyonce put an African in her video.
Yeah.
How good is that? You should be celebrating. And so this is in response to that.
Yeesh.
I'm sorry. Where are we? Yeah, we are told to appreciate what we get. I watched The Lion King as a child and thought of it dearly since its setting is based in East Africa and even uses Swahili. But when albums are made about the film, there is no representation from the countries where the film drew inspiration. But I should be happy because if West Africa and South Africa cultures are in it. I should be happy because West African and South African cultures are in it. Oh, no. She says if. I'm sorry, guys. I should be happy because if West African and South African cultures are in it, it suffices as representation for us all.
Right.
There's beauty in accepting us without pitying or romanticizing us. A middle ground is what is needed. We all need to actively learn about each other and not rely on some old images that the media often results to use when portraying Africans as well African Americans. We also need to be willing to accept constructive criticism and not take correction as an inherent attack.
Yeah. Yeesh.
Let that breathe a little bit.
Yeah, yeesh.
Let that breathe a little bit.
Yeesh.
In my conversation I had with a woman, she said there's a sense of superiority of Western culture to other cultures, and peoples from African cultures have acquiesced to the notion where they've agreed, yeah, we're inferior. So I got to get to America. And this plays out in the way that missionaries address their work amongst African nations. One culture does not see the other as a culture that can fully be respected. And this goes back to what Joy was talking about in that last post.
Right.
Pity. And we have familiarity with that, where, see people in poverty in the United States, and you got missionaries or churches that go to that, and the heart behind it is loving,
right.
But the words that you use actually showcase that you view yourself as superior.
Yeah, and they can see it.
And
hear it.
It's noticeable.
Yeah,
it's noticeable.
Right.
So the woman goes on and says, this informs the way development is implemented in African countries and the way the gospel is shared. When we come from a place of respect and humility, a lot could be improved. And it's hard. This is Brandon speaking now, but it's hard to care for people when you pity them.
Yeah.
More importantly, it's hard to love them when you pity them.
Yeah.
In the past, there were kings that were rich, yes, but there were also people who were poor in the past. This narrative, this is Brandon speaking now. Sorry, that was the woman. That was a quote from her.
Oh, before you say that, don't forget it.
Yeah.
There's a girl on Facebook I went to high school with. She's from Ghana. And what she said was, she's a little bit hood. She's been in America for a while. She says, why is Beyonce dragging us like this?
Wow, dragging how?
Because she was just saying that she's only giving one African perspective. She said, how come she didn't show the wars? How come she didn't show the countries that are at war with one another? How come she didn't show that? She said it's so common for a female Nigerian to absolutely hate a Kenyan woman. You know what I mean? The different tribes don't get along in a lot of African countries. And it's not because of poverty. It's not because of social economic status.
It's human nature.
It's just human nature.
Listen to what comes out in this conversation I had. She goes on to say, what you'll find in movies is not really a true picture of what's on the ground. It'll help Americans to know that there is a lot to learn from the quote unquote African culture. Africa is not a country. It's a continent. Yeah. It is not a monolith where everything that happens in one part of Africa happens everywhere. There's so much diversity. This is Brandon speaking now. do we see that diversity represented in pop culture?
No.
You kind of just see one group. That's what I saw on this comment section also, where people are like, why? How come you only see one part of Africa kind of represented in the United States? And I don't think we would even know that.
No, I mean, how would we?
Yeah, we wouldn't even know that.
Unless we actually spoke to some Africans from different countries.
Yeah. And, I made a video earlier this week where when I worked with, or I went to school with in engineering with people from Africa, and, in introducing themselves or identifying themselves, they never said that they were African.
Okay.
They said, I'm Ghanaian, or
right.
I'm Nigerian, or I'm Kenyan. The same way, we don't see ourselves as North American. Meanwhile, our description is still flawed because nobody calls Canadians Americans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just so jacked in everything.
Yeah.
The way that we talk about things and the way that we see things needs some correction. So she goes on and says, concerning spirituality, there's a lot of falsehood. And this is where we start to get back into black and blur through our theological lens. There's a lot of falsehood. Many Africans are no longer loyal to the many traditional African religions. Yeah. There are certain customs and traditions maintained that draw people back to their ancestors, yes, but the everyday individual goes about life as if there were no ancestors. You will find more church buildings than shrines in most places. You'll find this interesting mix of people who go to the ancestors and go to church, but what's more visible is their loyalty to their church denomination. And this is Brandon speaking. The lie is that all Christianity entered Africa through the colonization of Africa near the 14th century. That's the lie.
Slave trade.
Yeah. That's the lie, is that Christianity exists in Africa because the evil white people went over there and started the whole slave thing. And it's not historically accurate. As a matter of fact, still Brandon speaking, I'm done with the quote. I'm done with the conversation. Many early church fathers were African. Now, this is where we can fight regarding the racial conversations, because you go to seminaries and you don't learn this.
No.
You go to schools and you don't learn this. Not only that, there's some pictures that even portray them as non-black.
Yeah.
And that's a tragedy.
Yeah.
But yes, there are many early church fathers who are African. Now, their heritage isn't respected by black Americans because the early church fathers don't fit the stereotypical African characteristic that's given to us through all our images in pop culture. And like is mentioned earlier, Africa's a continent. It's not a country.
Right.
For the Christians who know about these church fathers, Tertullian, Minucius, Felix Cyprian, Lectinaeus, Augustine, Alexander of Alexandria, they're African.
Right.
They're African. As a matter of fact, the first African Christian nation began in the 4th century by King Azana in Ethiopia. And the story is depicted in Acts of the inception of this African nation, not in the 4th century, but before that, the African Ethiopian eunuch who received the gospel.
Right.
And went back to his nation and shared that gospel. In Acts 8. Sorry, what did I say? I forget what I said. But so history is very important for people to learn, because if you're learning your history through your favorite actors or musicians or www.tellmeaboutthis.com,
Facebook,
memes. People are learning history through memes. Yeah. So how much time do we have? We're gonna have to do a part 2, huh?
I know. 5 minutes left.
We're gonna have to do a part 2. You know what? Let's end there.
Okay.
Let's end there. Let's end there. This is part 1.
Okay.
We're going to get into the theological lens of Black is King and dive into some things in part 2. So, guys, thank you for tuning in to Black and Blurred. This is another episode, but we want your ears. We want you to listen up, and we're going to be talking about some things that we want you to check us on, to dive deep into it. The Christian and non-Christian, because worldviews are important, and every single one of us has a worldview, and it's important for us to test these worldviews to know whether or not it's true, because if it's not true, it's dangerous. Thank you for tuning in to Black and Blurred, where we're going to do one of two things. We're going to give you our humble opinion,
Give you the facts.
Holler at us.
It's not tactile. It's just a weird button. It's like you have to press it right in the center of it.